History is filled with shadowy figures who walked among us, leaving behind only whispers, riddles, and unanswered questions. These aren't the kings and queens you learned about in school. These are the mysterious individuals whose true identities remain locked away in time's vault. From anonymous writers who shook the foundations of literature to wanderers whose very existence defies explanation, today we're counting down the top 10 most enigmatic figures in human history. Some lived double lives so convincing that we still don't know who they really were. Others appeared and vanished like ghosts, leaving behind only legends and theories. Prepare yourself for a journey into the shadows of history, where truth is stranger than fiction and every answer only leads to more questions. Number 10. The Comte de Saint-Germain, the immortal aristocrat who claimed to have lived for centuries, appeared across European courts, dazzling nobles with his apparent agelessness and mysterious wealth. In 18th century Europe, one man captivated the most powerful courts from France to Russia, the Comte de Saint-Germain. What made him extraordinary wasn't just his claimed nobility, but his insistence that he had lived for hundreds of years. First documented at the court of Louis XV around 1750, Saint-Germain spoke multiple languages fluently, possessed encyclopedic knowledge of historical events he claimed to have witnessed firsthand, and never seemed to age. Voltaire called him a man who never dies and who knows everything. The Count would casually mention conversations with historical figures from centuries past, describing events with startling accuracy. He claimed to have been present at the wedding of Cana, where Jesus turned water into wine, and spoke of the crucifixion as if he'd been there. His wealth appeared limitless, yet no one knew its source. He never ate in public, claimed to sustain himself on a special elixir, and possessed an uncanny ability to remove flaws from diamonds. Witnesses reported that he looked exactly the same over decades of acquaintance. The mystery deepened when he supposedly died in 1784, yet credible sightings continued well into the 19th century, fueling legends that persist today. Number 9. The Voinich Manuscript author, someone in the 15th century, created the world's most mysterious book, filled with an undecipherable language and bizarre illustrations that have stumped codebreakers for over a century. Deep in Yale University's Beinecker Library sits a 240-page manuscript that has driven linguists, cryptographers, and historians to the brink of madness. The Voinich manuscript, carbon-dated to the early 1400s, is written entirely in an unknown script that appears to be a complete language system, yet no one has ever successfully translated a single word. The anonymous author filled the pages with elaborate drawings of unknown plants, astronomical diagrams, and naked women bathing in green pools connected by intricate plumbing systems. The text flows naturally, with consistent patterns suggesting genuine linguistic structure, not random symbols. Medieval book dealer Wilfrid Voynich discovered it in 1912 at Villa Mondragone in Italy. Since then, World War II code breakers, computer scientists, and AI programs have all failed to crack its code. Some theories suggest it's the work of Roger Bacon, Leonardo da Vinci, or even John Dee. Others believe it's an elaborate hoax or the ravings of a madman. The most unsettling possibility, that it's genuine knowledge recorded in a lost language containing secrets we're not meant to understand. The author's identity remains one of history's greatest puzzles, their mysterious knowledge locked away in plain sight. Number 8. Fulcanelli, the 20th century alchemist who claimed to have discovered the secret of transmuting base metals into gold, vanished after leaving behind cryptic books that still baffle scientists. In 1920s Paris, someone calling themselves Fulcanelli began publishing books that would revolutionize the study of alchemy. The Mystery of the Cathedrals and the Dwellings of the Philosophers contained detailed instructions for transmuting metals and achieving immortality, written with such scientific precision that modern physicists still study them today. What made Fulcanelli extraordinary wasn't just the knowledge, but the complete mystery surrounding their identity. They communicated only through a student named Eugène Cancelier, who claimed his master had successfully performed the great work, achieving both the Philosopher's Stone and physical immortality. In 1922, Cancelier announced that Fulcanelli had undergone the final transformation and departed this world. Yet in 1952, Cancelliet claimed to have met his former master, who appeared decades younger than when they'd last seen each other in the 1920s. The books contain architectural secrets hidden in Gothic cathedrals, suggesting their author possessed knowledge of ancient mysteries embedded in stone. Some researchers believe Fulcanelli was actually a group of scientists, while others insist it was a single individual who discovered secrets that modern science is only beginning to understand. Their true identity died with Cancelliet in 1982, leaving behind only the promise that immortality might be achievable through forgotten knowledge. Number 7. The Green Children of Woolpit. Two children with green skin who spoke an unknown language appeared in a 12th century English village, claiming to come from an underground world where the sun never shines. In the village of Woolpit, Suffolk, around 1150 AD, something extraordinary happened that chroniclers are still trying to explain. Two children, a boy and girl, emerged from wolf pits with skin of a distinct green hue, wearing clothes made of unfamiliar materials and speaking a language no one recognized. The accounts, recorded by chroniclers Ralph of Coggeshall and William of Newburgh, describe how the children were found by harvesters and brought to the village. They refused all food except green beans and seemed terrified of their new environment. The boy, described as the younger of the two, never adapted and died shortly after their arrival. The girl, however, gradually learned English, and her skin slowly returned to normal coloration. When she could finally communicate, she told an incredible story. She and her brother came from a land called St. Martin's Land, where everything was green and the sun never shone. They had been tending their father's cattle when they heard church bells and followed the sound through a cave system, eventually emerging into our world. Some historians suggest they were Flemish immigrants whose skin appeared green due to malnutrition, while others propose more extraordinary explanations involving parallel dimensions or underground civilizations. The girl eventually married and lived a normal life, but she never revealed more details about her mysterious homeland, taking its secrets to her grave. Number 6. Caspar Hower. A teenage boy appeared in 1828 Nuremberg, claiming to have spent his entire life locked in a dark cellar, sparking theories that he was secretly European royalty hidden away for political reasons. On May 26, 1828, a disheveled teenager stumbled into Nuremberg's town square, clutching a letter and barely able to speak coherent German. The boy, who called himself Caspar Hower, claimed he had spent his entire conscious life imprisoned in a small, dark cellar with only bread and water for sustenance. His story was both heartbreaking and baffling. Caspar insisted that a mysterious man had cared for him in isolation, teaching him only to write his name and speak a few phrases. He had never seen sunlight, other people, or the outside world until his sudden appearance. His pale complexion, childlike behavior, and apparent unfamiliarity with basic concepts seemed to support his incredible tale. What made Caspar's case extraordinary was his rapid intellectual development once freed. Despite his claimed isolation, he quickly learned to read, write, and paint with remarkable skill. Some observers noted his refined features and regal bearing, leading to speculation that he was the hidden crown prince of Baden, secretly imprisoned to prevent his legitimate claim to the throne. The mystery deepened when Caspar was attacked twice, first stabbed in 1829, then fatally wounded in 1833. On his deathbed, he claimed his attacker was the same man who had imprisoned him. Modern DNA testing has been attempted but remains inconclusive, leaving Caspar Hower's true identity as one of history's most compelling enigmas. Number 5. The Man in the Iron Mask. For over 3 decades, a mysterious prisoner wore a black velvet mask in French jails, with his identity so secret that he was buried under a false name and his cell was destroyed. From 1669 until his death in 1703, French prisons held their most enigmatic captive, a man whose face was hidden behind a mask and whose identity was known only to King Louis XIV and a select few. Contrary to popular belief, the mask was made of black velvet, not iron, but its purpose was unmistakable: to completely conceal the prisoner's identity. The masked man was first imprisoned on the island of Sainte Marguerite under the care of Benigne d'Auvergne de Saint-Mars, who would become his lifelong jailer. What made this imprisonment extraordinary was the level of secrecy and the apparent respect shown to the prisoner. He was well fed, allowed books, and treated with unusual deference for a captive, suggesting high social standing. When Saint-Mars was promoted to governor of the Bastille in 1698, the masked prisoner was transferred with him. Historical records show the prisoner was registered under the name Marchioli, but this was clearly an alias. He died on November 19, 1703, and was immediately buried under the false identity of Marchioli. Theories about his identity have captivated historians for centuries. Was he the illegitimate twin brother of Louis XIV, the real father of the Sun King, a disgraced minister who knew state secrets? Some suggest he was Ercole Antonio Mattioli, an Italian diplomat who betrayed France, while others propose more exotic theories involving switched identities and royal conspiracies. The truth died with Louis XIV, leaving one of history's most enduring mysteries. Number 4. D.B. Cooper. On November 24, 1971, a polite gentleman in a business suit hijacked a Boeing 727, extorted $200,000, then parachuted into a Pacific Northwest storm and vanished forever. It was Thanksgiving Eve when a middle-aged man in a black suit and white shirt approached the Northwest Orient ticket counter in Portland, Oregon. He bought a one-way ticket to Seattle under the name Dan Cooper, later misreported as D.B. Cooper by media. What happened next became America's only unsolved case of air piracy. After takeoff, Cooper calmly informed flight attendant Florence Schaffner that he had a bomb. When she expressed skepticism, he opened his briefcase, revealing wires and what appeared to be dynamite. His demands were modest by today's standards, $200,000 in $20 bills and 4 parachutes. What struck everyone was Cooper's politeness. He ordered bourbon and soda, paid his tab, and even gave Schaffner money for the crew. After the plane landed in Seattle and his demands were met, Cooper released the 36 passengers, but kept several crew members aboard. He then instructed the pilot to fly toward Mexico City at low speed and altitude. Somewhere over the dense forests of southwestern Washington, during a fierce rainstorm, Cooper lowered the aft stairs of the Boeing 727 and jumped into the night wearing only his business suit and a parachute. He was never seen again. Despite one of the longest-running investigations in FBI history, Cooper's true identity remains unknown. Was he an experienced paratrooper, a Boeing employee with inside knowledge? The case officially remains open, and Cooper has become a folk hero, the only hijacker in American history to never be caught. Number 3. Shakespeare's true identity. The man from Stratford-upon-Avon, who supposedly wrote the greatest works in English literature, left behind no books, letters, or manuscripts in his own handwriting, sparking centuries of debate about who really wrote the plays. William Shakespeare of Stratford-upon-Avon is credited with creating Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet, and Macbeth. Yet the historical evidence for his authorship has puzzled scholars for centuries. The man who died in 1616 left behind no personal library, no letters discussing literature, and no manuscripts in his own hand. His signatures show a shaky, barely literate scrawl that seems inconsistent with the sophisticated wordsmith who crafted the world's greatest plays. The works attributed to Shakespeare demonstrate intimate knowledge of court life, legal terminology, classical literature, and foreign languages, education far beyond what a middle-class glovemaker's son from a small market town would have received. The plays contain detailed knowledge of Italian geography, French court customs, and legal procedures that would have required extensive travel and education unavailable to the historical Shakespeare. Adding to the mystery, Shakespeare's contemporaries rarely mentioned his literary genius. When he died, there was no public mourning for England's greatest writer. The first folio wasn't published until 7 years after his death, compiled by actors who claimed personal friendship with the author, yet provided no convincing evidence of Shakespeare's writing process. Alternative candidates include Edward de Vere, the Earl of Oxford, who possessed the education, court access, and literary connections that match the work's sophistication. Others propose Christopher Marlowe, who allegedly faked his death to continue writing under Shakespeare's name. The debate continues to this day, with each theory raising more questions about the true identity of history's most celebrated playwright. Number 2. The Babushka Lady. During President Kennedy's assassination, a mysterious woman in a headscarf was photographed taking pictures throughout the shooting, yet she never came forward and her footage has never been found. November 22, 1963, Dealey Plaza, Dallas. As President Kennedy's motorcade approached the fatal turn, cameras captured not just the assassination, but also the spectators. Among them was a woman who would become one of the most intriguing figures in American history's most analyzed moment. The Babushka Lady, so named for her distinctive headscarf, was photographed and filmed standing remarkably close to the presidential limousine. What made her extraordinary was her behavior during the shooting. While other spectators dove for cover or froze in shock. She continued calmly filming the entire assassination with what appeared to be an 8mm camera. The most mysterious aspect of her presence was what happened afterward. Despite massive FBI appeals for witnesses to come forward with photographs and film, the Babushka Lady never identified herself. Her footage, which would have provided crucial evidence of the assassination from a unique vantage point, has never surfaced. In 1970, a woman named Beverly Oliver claimed to be the Babushka Lady, stating she was a nightclub singer who knew Jack Ruby. However, her story contained inconsistencies, and many researchers remain skeptical. The woman's true identity and her potentially crucial film remain two of the most tantalizing mysteries surrounding Kennedy's death. Some theorists suggest she was a professional photographer or intelligence operative who deliberately positioned herself to document the assassination. Others believe she was simply a tourist who feared becoming involved in the investigation. Her footage could contain evidence that might finally answer questions about the number of shooters and the sequence of events that changed American history forever. Number 1. Jack the Ripper. In 1888, London's Whitechapel district, someone began systematically murdering women with surgical precision, taunting police with letters signed Jack the Ripper, then vanished as mysteriously as they had appeared. Between August and November 1888, the fog-shrouded streets of London's East End became hunting grounds for history's most infamous serial killer. 5 women, Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly, were brutally murdered in a manner that suggested their killer possessed anatomical knowledge and surgical skill. What transformed these crimes from local tragedies into international obsession was the killer's communication with authorities. Letters arrived at newspapers and police stations, signed Jack the Ripper, describing the murders in chilling detail and promising more violence. The From Hell letter, accompanied by half a human kidney allegedly taken from victim Catherine Eddowes, remains one of history's most disturbing pieces of evidence. The killer's surgical precision suggested medical training, leading investigators to suspect doctors, medical students, or butchers. Witness descriptions varied wildly, creating composite sketches of everyone from gentlemen in top hats to rough working-class men. The investigation revealed the shocking conditions of Victorian London's underclass, while exposing the limitations of 19th-century police work. Then, as suddenly as the murders began, they stopped. Jack the Ripper vanished completely, leaving behind only theories. Was he Aaron Kosminski, the Polish barber suspected by police, the royal physician Sir William Gull, as suggested by some conspiracy theorists, or perhaps someone entirely different whose identity died with them in the slums of Whitechapel? Modern forensic techniques have been applied to surviving evidence, including DNA analysis of letters and clothing, but definitive proof remains elusive. Jack the Ripper's true identity remains history's greatest criminal mystery, a shadow figure who stepped out of the fog to terrorize London, then disappeared back into the darkness of time, leaving behind only questions that may never be answered. These 10 figures remind us that history is not just about what we know, but about what remains hidden in the shadows of time. From immortal counts to masked prisoners, from mysterious authors to vanishing killers, they represent the ultimate puzzles that continue to captivate us centuries later. Perhaps that's what makes them so fascinating. In an age where we can instantly access information about anyone, these individuals managed to keep their secrets so well that we're still searching for answers. Their stories prove that truth really can be stranger than fiction, and that some mysteries are meant to endure. Who were they really? What secrets did they take to their graves? The answers may be lost forever, but the questions they left behind continue to inspire investigators, researchers, and dreamers to keep searching for the truth hidden in history's deepest shadows.